All right. So this is a world record currently as of posting. Last time on my last video, I was asked to do a commentary on the things that I did. So, like right now, let's start at the very beginning. So I went and selected Street Kid because it has the shortest introductory mission. I went and selected female because there is a little bit of variance in the dialogue, and the female seems to have a slightly faster talking speed. So just a little bit faster makes for a little bit faster time. Yeah, that's why I went with her. All right, here at the very beginning, um, right here, I press the skip button so that I can skip through that entire dialogue. If you wait until you see the text, you will get a little bit of unnecessary speech before the dialogue can be skipped. All right, so here I am jumping the entire way because jumping actually picks up speed a little bit compared to simply walking. Right there, I did a little bit of an edge run. I'm not sure that it's actually faster, but I decided to test it. Whenever I look up at the time, it doesn't seem to be any faster. I'm probably not going to do it in any future runs. Right here, I'm just mashing the enter key, holding down the skip button, mashing the enter key, making sure that all of my dialogue gets skipped. I let go of the C right there before the dialogue is fully finished. That right there, whenever the stool breaks, it launches you. And that actually happens on a bunch of different items. You can do it with bar stools, like you just saw. You can do it with tables. You can do it with chairs. You can do it with, like, street posts. Literally anything. You could do it on people as well. Just don't do it on people. You'll actually kill the person rather than getting launched away. Here we have our first unskippable cutscene. I am staring at the roof to keep my frame rate at 60 or higher. This game is very graphically intense. Even like on the lowest settings, there will be some places like inside the bar where I can't get full 60 frames per second without turning everything to low and turning DLSS on. So yeah, so I'm staring at the roof. Even with DLSS on in some places, I will still get closer to 50 frames per second rather than 60. The reason that is bad is dialogue skipping is frame locked. So having 60 frames per second as compared to 50 frames per second is actually faster by a significant period of time. Excuse me, by a significant period of time, considering all of the dialogue that's in this game. So, right here, we are in the car with Padre. He is kind of he's a fixer that we used to work with 2 years ago. We just came back from Atlanta, and this is the first time we met him since then. And he's like, hey, tell me about how things went. I didn't talk to him. I didn't care to talk to him. Talking to him or not doesn't save any time, and so I decided to save my finger's strength and not mash any buttons while it was going on. Right now, he is talking to the 6th Street gang. They want him to pull his men out of a certain region of the city called what's it called off the top of my head? Vista. Sorry, I'm sure it was up on screen a few seconds ago. I didn't catch it. And in return, they'll give him the Glen. Basically, we're telling him to screw off. Like, if we had waited there, then Padre would have told him to screw off, and we would have just lost a bunch of time. But that is one part where we can actually interact. So now we are driving toward the drop-off point, where we're going to start our next segment. And I apologize for not having any audio. My recording software bugged out, and so uh, I'm sorry. Here, I didn't talk to him at that point. Uh, Generally speaking, I think it's faster not to talk if you can help it. If there are points where you can skip through dialogue, great, skip through the dialogue because that is almost always going to be faster than waiting. Almost always. But if you can't skip through the dialogue, then it's almost always faster to just wait for the timer to disappear. All right, now up here, for the longest time, I didn't know this. I didn't know this until I saw it in somebody else's run, but you can actually skip through this little scene as you just saw. Um, and that saves like 10 seconds worth of time, just not having to watch that scene. But you can skip through it as long as you have the C button pressed before the scene, before the dialogue disappears. Over here, I'm running on the left side. There is a small chance whenever you're looking at this point where you completely skip through the whole scene of entering the car straight to that point. And that saves you about 3 seconds. So if you can hit it just right, then you save that time. If not, well, the vast majority of time you don't actually get it. Now we can skip through again. The police are here because you failed to steal that car. And now the car's owners are here, and they basically want to kneecap you and throw you in the ocean because you tried to steal their stuff. Which I guess is fair in this city. After your experience together, you befriend this man, Jackie Wells. He is a pain in the butt for speedrunning because he does not like to move with any sort of quickness at all. You have to go and nudge him and bump into him to the best of your ability just to make him like start running at you. And if you don't, he'll just walk. Walking takes forever. So here we are going to rescue a woman from a group called scavengers. Scavengers are people who scrap other people for their cybernetic parts. This game is based in a setting where cyber techniques are commonplace, and so you can replace parts of your body with cybertronic parts. Right there, I was able to skip him forward a little bit because there was a dialogue option. Outside of moving regions, moving things like cars, elevators, you can skip through dialogue at whatever pace your computer can handle or your PlayStation or Xbox can handle. I run it on computer. Um, but that's only outside of those regions because when you're inside of these regions, the game doesn't really skip forward cars and elevators the same way it skips forward dialogue or people whenever they're being scripted. Like even outside in the open world, it doesn't skip forward random passersby. There you can skip. Here you can skip. Here I skip because that drives Jackie all the way to the door. And that saves a ton of time. All right, here. I am just going to punch out all of the dudes. Punching only takes one hit to knock them out, whereas shooting frequently takes 2 headshots to defeat them. Sometimes you can get it down to just one, but a great percentage of the time, it takes at least 2 shots to defeat them. With him, sometimes you can actually run up and punch him out if you have enough stamina left. But in my case, I realized that I was moving so slowly, my stamina bar was rising, I had to pull out the pistol in order to deal some damage. Once he runs behind that door, you can't get to him in melee range. You have to shoot him through the wall. Otherwise, he just doesn't care. If you try to run at him, like through the wall after he knocks it down, chances are he's going to destroy you. Like that minigun that he had will two-shot you. It will absolutely destroy you. So if you can run up to him quickly and punch him out, he gets kind of stunned by the punches, and that will prevent him from shooting you. And it only takes 4 punches to defeat him. But if not, you have to shoot him. And so I just shot him at that point. So we just rescued Sandra Dorset, our target, from the scavengers. And now we are on our way back. Back to the elevator. Fortunately, there was a neat little shortcut door right there. That's the word I was looking for. Now we are going to talk to Wakako, our fixer who gave us this job. And she lets us know that on the way home, the region of the city that you, the character, live in, it has been closed off. Look at this timer. Up in the top right corner. Yeah, it was closer to like 2 o'clock, and now it's 10 o'clock. And that elevator ride is what drove it there. Here, you can skip forward just a little bit, and that will get Jackie to quickly come out of the elevator, and if you're lucky, to run, which I got lucky in this case. If you don't get lucky, you can always bump into him and force him to run. It just takes a couple seconds longer. So now we are on our way home to sleep, because sleep is good. But like Wakako said, we have to make it past the barricade, which is surrounding the region of the city that we live in, Watson. Right here, Jackie and V, your character, are just conversing about the city and how good it or bad it is. Jackie thinks it's just amazing, and you're like, eh, it's okay. I mean, I've been to bigger cities or bigger other cities. It's the same, except it's not really. At this point, uh, you realize that the scavengers you just raided are out to get you. You took their target from them, and now you're going to get payback. I think it's faster to actually uh, kill the 2 people shooting at you from here. Once they're out, the van seems to speed up and your car seems to speed up just a little bit, but I can't really tell. And here, just so that you don't get nice 1 shot, just so that you don't get shot at and damaged overly much, it's good to just take that dude out. However, if you take out the driver, you don't get that crash. And Jackie will slow down once all of the enemies are dead. So if you kill the driver, and then the van will just slow down and Jackie will be like, oh, we're good. We don't have to go as fast anymore. And that loses time. So holding off until the van crashes is actually optimal. And this is the cordon that I was talking about, the barricade. Up here, I've realized that I hadn't been looking at the roof. And then, just for kicks, I decided, you know what? My frame rate's fine. I don't have to stare at the roof. Everything outside is much more interesting than staring at gray nothingness. And so I looked at the outside instead. Also, the timer has gone down by a minute rather than up in the under the area public, under the minimap. It was at 10:01 and now it's at 10. the things you notice as you're looking back at it. So, in order to get past the barricade, Jackie is trying to talk up this policewoman. He's like, "Hey, my girl's waiting for me. Like, you're such a good cop. You're doing a great job, and you got a heart of gold. I need to get to my girl, and that's why I'm glad I ran into you, because you're someone who understands that sort of thing." And she's like, "Yeah, that's so sad," and lets you through. A little bit later, there is actually, like, if you're not doing speedrun straps, you can actually pass by a conversation that says, "Hey, did you hear said policewoman?" And they give like a name. You don't know that it's her for certain, but they just say, "Hey, this policewoman was fired. Yeah, she did something." I have a hunch that it was that one that we just talked to. So up here, uh, we have a gang war. These dudes are trying to like hijack this car, and Max Tech, the police force that you just saw fly into the scene, are absolutely going to dominate them. Like, it's not even a contest. The woman on the right, or at least I think that's a woman, or on the left, I think that's a woman. She doesn't care. She's just super serious. One, two, three shots, everybody's down. Whereas the guy on the right's a stormtrooper. He like has no accuracy whatsoever. Scroll back a little bit and you'll see that he just shoots all over the place, not even remotely close to his targets. There, you can actually skip forward in the ride. You can do that here, and you can do that a little bit later, right in about 5-10 minutes, closer to 5 minutes. Whenever we get to Dexter Deshawn. And then getting out of the car again, you can skip through dialogue. Unfortunately, you can't skip through when getting into the car, but you can when getting out. Here, I had a little bit of difficulty trying to press the switch. Sometimes that switch will just not work. And so you'll have to look away for a couple seconds and then go back before you can press it. What I'm doing right here is practicing a technique called fist gliding. What fist gliding does is you unload your weapon. And what I mean by that is, like, you have a weapon equipped, and then through a series of button presses and mouse scrolling, you can actually unload it as like a model type thing. And so you physically, as a character, don't have it equipped, but you show up like you have it equipped, and you can take actions like you have it equipped. And so it allows you to punch, in this case, very, very quickly. What I just did here is a Dropbox glitch, and it allows you to duplicate items as you're selling them. And that will be important because I need 5,000 eddies a little bit later whenever I go to talk to the Ripper Doc here in a second. What you just saw was the main reason why fist gliding is important. So, running over to that platform and fist gliding to the next platform is actually faster than the previous way of getting there. The previous way of getting there, you have to jump over to the far side, climb up a fence, and then jump down onto those platforms before you can slide into the elevator shaft and just go straight down. Completely skips your elevator ride, completely skips talking with Jackie and Regina, um, and then just takes you straight down. You can run, you don't have to wait. It's great for speedruns. Hard to pull off, um, but great. What I'm doing now is fist gliding over to Victor, our Ripper Doc, and I'm fist gliding because it is faster than simply sprinting, as long as you have access to your weapon. All right, so here I had to save and load. I waited for the autosave to kick in outside of the door, and then loaded up this save. The reason why I did that is because pulling off the elevator skip that I mentioned previously prevents you from accessing your scanner. So you have to be able to scan Victor in here, otherwise you can't progress. And that would be really bad. So you have to save and load in order for the scanner to be functional again. Right now I'm looking down because he has a dialogue that has two options. One of them is Jack in, which proceeds to this menu. And here I get a Kerenzikov. That's important. I will explain that in a little bit. But he also has another dialogue option that just repeats on a loop. And so if you get stuck there and you just keep hitting, mashing and mashing, then you will just stay in that endless loop and you won't progress forward. All right. Anyways, here in 3-4 minutes, there will be a jump type glitch where you have to use that Kerenzikov. That Kerenzikov costs 5,000, which is why we duplicated selling that item previously. And what it allows you to do is whenever you slow down time, and you do that by looking down the sights, you look down the sights and dash, and then that slows down time. If you keep dashing while time is slowed down, then you will build up a lot of speed. So here I just called Regina because calling her actually skips through a little bit of dialogue and skips some time while I'm waiting for Jackie to talk to me. While people are called on the phone, you cannot pull off that jump that I was talking about. So you have to fist glide over here if you want to go faster than running. You can also go to your car and drive over here, but fist gliding is even faster than that. So that's why I did it again. Now I'm looking up at the ceiling because passing by this area actually does affect my frame rate. And so I look up at the ceiling to make things go more quickly. Now we are talking to Dexter Deshawn. Dexter Deshawn is a fixer who is trying to set us up with a heist. And what we are trying to do is pull a prototype biochip out from the clutches of the corporation that owns it. So we're trying to pull this thing out. We don't know what it is yet. I mean, obviously later on down the line we will figure out what it is, but at this point in the story we don't know what this biochip does. And this scene takes forever. So the Maelstrom, which he just mentioned, is a psycho gang. He will be explaining this in a little bit, but this psycho gang, they have kind of replaced their heads, basically, with cybernetic parts. Not like the full head, you'll see in a moment, but just the top portion, forehead and eyes. It's really strange. Take a look at these guys. Like, those aren't goggles, okay? Those are actual chunks of their head missing and replaced with cybernetic parts. This thing is the flathead. We get to interact with this a little bit later, and by a little bit, I mean about half an hour later from now. It has its own little sequence that we get to run through. It's kind of okay. But yeah. This guy's Brick. He used to be the leader of the Maelstrom. If you're reading down below, you can understand it a little bit better. This guy is Royce. I am operating in Polish, though, so it's actually a good bit faster than English. Dialogue-wise, Polish is extremely fast. Like, they outright don't say some sentences that English says. So we operate in that language for a ton of time save. Evelyn Parker leads you to one of the most boring parts of this run. It's interesting in a casual playthrough in its own right, just because you're learning about something about a new mechanic. But in a speed run, you can't skip through it. It's just like riding an elevator, it's just like riding a car. You can't skip through it at all. And we are finally almost at the end of the ride. Dexter Deshawn is going to drop us off at the side of the road, and we are going to do our first K hop. We need the Kerenzikov in order to do that. Slow down time, dash a lot, pick up a ton of speed. And here, we do something called edge running. Edge running is pulled off by uh, looking at a ledge and kind of sliding down it. Kind of. So you're on the edge, but it thinks you're supposed to be falling off of the edge. And so it just picks up a ton of speed. That, that right there, that menu, that was pulling off another trick called fast travel storage. What fast travel storage allows is the next time I open up my map, it will actually open up the fast travel menu as though I were activating that device. Here I call Regina so that Jackie can come inside faster than he normally would. You saw how he was walking. I had to go up and bump into him in order to make him run again. Now he's running up here. I wait for just a second or two in order to make sure he's up at the top of the stairs. If you run off before he's up at the top of the stairs, he will sometimes just stay there because he thinks you haven't reached him yet, even though you're far beyond him. I was looking back there to make sure that he realized I had already gone ahead. Here, if you run into this guy and bump into him, he'll force you back into the elevator, but doing so allows you to skip through his dialogue. Whereas normally, while you're stuck in the elevator, you can't. What that brief moment when you're outside of the elevator, you can skip and he will push you back in. This, I think, is due because of being in Polish, um, where the flathead is out in front of the Maelstrom gang member. I think that's because it's in Polish, and I'm skipping ahead, and so he's just, yeah, we need this thing to be here now. All right, so there. That guy has two dialogue options at that point. One of them, you pull out your gun and shoot him. The other one, you knock him out. Knocking him out saves a couple seconds of dialogue. And there, you saw me jump over and punch out the one guy. That one guy was Dum Dum, the guy we were talking to. He's the only one you actually have to defeat because Jackie will defeat the other ones. And punching is faster than just shooting, as I mentioned previously. So yeah, right there, you saw me open up the map menu, and it was the fast travel menu. So I can fast travel out to any point that I want, that I have access to. Doing so will actually freeze you upon re-entering the world. And so you have to open up a menu, either like the inventory or the main menu, or rather the pause menu. And there I just did another K-hop. You see how Jackie kind of teleported around the room for a moment? Going in through the back after fast traveling to that point will skip the entire fight sequence that you have against the Maelstrom gang. There's this whole big scene where you have to escape the factory, where you have to escape All Foods. And you end up having to fight a bunch of people and run by them and shoot like the last three people in the last room. Doing this fast travel storage removes the need to do that, and it saves like half a minute. So here I'm just going to teleport normally because my fast travel storage has worn off. It is only good for one time. But once I get to the other side, you're going to see that I do it again. I pull it off again. And it does take me a couple tries if I remember correctly, because it's a pretty close to frame perfect trick. Yeah, see, open up the menu, don't get it open, don't get it open, open up the menu again. There, I got the skip. So, or I got the trick rather. And here, you have to be careful because you can run into people, cars, bollards, those like barricade things like that. That is barbed wire, and that will knock you down. You will lose like 5 to 10 seconds just from having to stand back up. In here, you are prevented from running. So I did a couple dashes in order to get to the doorway, and then I jumped because you can jump up over that little centerpiece. If you land just right on the back end of that piece, you will see that you can like fly out at super speeds. Similar to edge running, it's the same sort of concept where the game thinks you're supposed to be going downward and instead you're going forward. And so it just sends you flying. So here we are talking with Evelyn Parker. The scene I was telling you about earlier where it was going to be kind of boring, that unskippable thing, that's here in just a minute or so. Right now we can still kind of skip through dialogue, but soon we won't be able to. So Evelyn is telling us about the biochip that we're trying to steal. It belongs to the Arasaka Corporation. We're trying to steal it. It is kind of a big deal. If you manage to get outside before she does, you can kind of run ahead of her, like what I'm doing now. And hopping is going to be way faster than just walking because you are limited to walking whenever you are with her in this area. Right here. I am forced to walk the entire way. Like even here, when she's already off in the distance, I can't run. I can't like jump. I have to walk. So before she finishes her lines about brain dances, which is what this thing we're about to do is, you can jump. And so if you jump far enough away from her, you can continue to jump. And she will just run after you rather than forcing you to walk at her pace. Which is fantastic. Great for speedruns. Skip through a little bit of dialogue. Right now, Judy, this person in front of us, is calibrating the machine on our noggin so that we can open up the brain dance and experience what the world has to offer on the other side. And that world happens to be a stick-up. We are robbing a convenience store. This guy, he is kind of our superior. He's like, hey, like this is something that you're going to do. Just go in, grab the money, get out, and then we'll sell whatever we're doing to the people who want to watch it for a lot of money. Take this gun, have fun. Watch this. Cock. And then he will come in, point his gun, like, hey, everybody on the ground, let's do this. Knock this woman out, bam, and then cock it again. That second cock, that second pulling of the barrel means there are no bullets inside this magazine, inside this gun. None at all. Because the way pistols like that work, like it looks to be designed similarly to a Beretta. And the way Berettas work is they have a chamber which after the shot is fired, the barrel will come back, or the slide will come back, release the round, or release the casing for the previous bullet, and then reload the next one. So him pulling that back the first time outside of the convenience store, okay, fine. You can kind of say, maybe there wasn't a bullet in the chamber at the time, And so he pulls it back, cocks it. Now there should be a bullet in the chamber. But when he goes inside and he does it again and no bullet pops out, that means he never had one. Like his magazine, his clip was completely empty, like this entire time. Just something I thought I'd share. I don't know how many people noticed it or how many people even care, but I found it interesting. Anyways, now that we're inside, we get to play a little bit around with the analysis mode tools. So we can pause and play, we can fast forward, we can rewind, we can reset back to the beginning. And then now it's going to show that we can analyze different things. And so this first thing that we're going to analyze is the gun, just as a tutorial part. I come over here to this part because in the next brief section of this brain dance segment, we need to look at some audio files. And those audio files are signified by this green target here. And so if you walk up to it and you're already looking at it, whenever you continue on, it will immediately finish scanning, just like that. Whereas previously, when you looked at the gun, you saw that little scan bar. You can go back and check it if you missed it. That point, you did not get the scan bar because you were already looking at it. You had already cycled through it. Game is like, oh, yeah, he's already looked at this thing. I don't have to worry about giving him a scan because he's already scanned it. That doesn't normally happen just in a casual playthrough, unless you're already there looking at it. And in fact, I think that if you move after going into that menu, you do in fact end up with a scan bar. So you want to be in position before you start scanning. Because if you move afterward, you have to scan it from the beginning. And here, a fast forward, this lady gets knocked out, you can scan her. And just like the soundbite, if you scan her before Judy says, hey, scan this person and fix it, well then as soon as the dialogue is finished, she's already immediately scanned. And so that skips the time of having to wait 3-5 seconds in order to just do the full scan again. Unfortunately, you can't do it with the computer because the computer doesn't show up as a scannable object until just now. So you have to rewind in order to activate it as a scannable object, like we're doing now, and then you go through the full scan. Unfortunately, you can't skip that, but that is the way it is. At the end, you realize that the person who shot you was the guy who gave you the gun. And the guy who gave you the gun knew that you didn't have any bullets in it, so you wouldn't be able to fight back, even if you realized that he was coming for you. He set you up pretty good. Now we X out of the brain dance. Skip through a little bit more dialogue. Call T-Bug so that she can hack into our brain dance equipment and help us find what we're looking for. And what we're looking for is like a cooler that holds the biochip. And so we enter in, fast forwarding through the scene, enter the analysis mode. Right now we're waiting for T-Bug to finish talking before we can start skipping up again. And what we're supposed to be doing is listening to that conversation that guy was having. But turns out you don't have to listen to it. You can just skip it completely and then start fast forwarding until the next point where it's necessary. Skipping it completely saves you a minute and a half. It saves a lot of time. So we just fast forward to this thing, realize that we're looking for something really cold. We're looking for that cooler. Right here, I'm getting into place because I'm about to reset the brain dance. If you just rewind the brain dance, it takes about twice as long to get to a point where you can see the cooler in the distance. So here I entered the thermal imaging mode, and there, if you scrolled back to that point, it would take 10, 15 seconds longer to get there than if you just reset and start from the beginning. So we're done. We found what we needed inside the brain dance, and now we can go and talk to Dexter Deshawn one last time before going on our heist. Judy's like, yeah, give me that thing back. Actually, you can keep it. Whatever. Yeah, I've already calibrated it to you. Just keep it. Like, I don't want it anymore. You hacked into it earlier. Just yeah, I'm not going to take it back. I don't know what you guys did to it or what you might do to it later. Skip. So this point, Evelyn's like, hey, you know that whole deal you're doing with your fixer Dexter? Uh, yeah, just ignore him completely. We'll split the profits 50-50. And I'm like, I'll think about it. And then I go and talk to Dexter anyway. So I saved my fast travel storage through that entire sequence. And that was important because otherwise I would have to go back outside of Lizzie's bar, take 10, 15 seconds in order to get to the fast travel point. Whereas just doing it here, I can open up the menu, close the menu, and then I'm good to go, and I'm right where I need to be. Now, for some reason, I haven't been able to pull it off recently. Maybe it has to do with the timing of the dialogue in Polish or what. But here, generally speaking, like whenever you're going down into this place, you can actually run. You can run ahead of Jackie. Instead, I am relegated to hopping or dashing if I felt like dashing. And I call Regina because Jackie likes to walk. Look at his little yellow dot up in the top right. That's why we call Regina so often, because it skips through all of the scripting and makes everything faster. Here I'm just waiting for him to talk. Cool. Hop around. If you can run, it's a little bit faster. You can't actually do the fist lighting thing in here because you're not allowed to pull out a weapon while you're inside the afterlife. So you have to just kind of go around them and call Regina and force them to go fast, to force them to go faster. Now here, putting the flathead away, and I'm trying to sit down. I mess it up, and I accidentally hit the wrong button. There are two options there. If you hit the second option, then you lose a second. But it's not like a major hit. It's not worth slowing down to take the time and figure out which one you're actually pushing. So here, Dexter and the rest of your crew are hashing out the details for the heist. He walks out, then T-Bog walks out, and then you have the option to either immediately teleport to here or to do something else. Doing something else loses minutes of time. Minutes. So you have to be careful not to press that option. And that option is the default option. So if you're just spamming through and you forget what you're doing for a couple moments, then you hit that option and now you have to run back out to this car. And you can't run. The most you can do is hop or dash a little bit, but you're forced to walk the entire way. And so it loses a ton of time if you're not careful. All right, so this car is run by the Delamain. Delamain is an artificial intelligence who works with slash for the humans. Most rogue AIs, and rogue AIs are AIs that are not controlled by humans, basically. Most rogue AIs are outside the wall. Um, where they're incapable of getting to the net that is inside of Night City. But this one is not. This one is on the inside, and he's actually a good guy and helps a lot of people out because he runs this taxi service for people. He just has a bunch of cars. Uh, at this point, I realized that my frames were less than 60 during the dialogue. I'm like, shoot. I need to go back, look at the roof for a while, and trust me, it's going to be a while. You can see that the split up at the top, highlighted in blue, is 2 minutes from now. That's about where we end up. It takes about a minute and a half from here. But yeah, right now we're just talking through things, saying, hey, we're hitting the major leagues. Things are going great. We're riding in this sweet car. Like, Dexter's massive percentage compared to what the rest of the crew gets. Dexter gets like 65% or 70% of the entire cut. And then the rest of the crew gets whatever's left that they can split between themselves. And we're like, yeah, this is the way to go in. The Excelsior package, the top quality Delamain package, that's what we're riding in right now. We're going to pick up a high priority, high value biochip. Like, this is going to be a big deal once we pull this off. This will get us off the streets. And so we're kind of hashing it out. And then T-Bug calls us like she just did. She's like, hey, make sure everything's ready and good to go. Make sure we can communicate. Check your comms. Everything good? Good. Let's do this. We just arrived at Konpeki, the hotel where the biochip is being kept. Have to keep our guns outside. There's actually an interesting little glitch where if you drop your weapons right there at the gate, just a couple moments back, if you drop your weapons right there on the inside of that gate outside, then you can pick them up later after you get out of the car and have them with you inside Konpeki. You just saw me look back at Jackie to make sure that he was actually running at me. If he wasn't, I would have had to run back out to him, start him to run, because, as I said, walking is really slow. Just jump up over the front desk, casually just invade. Skip a little bit, Jackie's running by. This is relatively recent, so running over there and kind of just bonking that dude actually triggers their conversation, and that conversation clears up this, where I can talk to the bartender and skip through Jackie's walking through this hallway. So that saves another half of a minute over just running to the elevator and waiting. And here I wait until just the very end to activate that, because then I can skip him coming outside a little bit. Of course, whenever I came over here, I could have and should have skipped that as well, but I didn't think about it, and so I lost a little bit of time there. But now he enters the room. We can start skipping through this dialogue. We're about to start the flathead section. Jackie's having difficulties, and I take over for him. Or the player takes over for him. We're looking for the appropriate room where the flathead is. You can go over there and activate that vent before the flathead gets in, skip through a little dialogue, and he will basically teleport like you just saw onto the wall. If you skip through the dialogue before you activate that, the flathead will wait and then just start moving after you finally activated it. A little more dialogue, skipping through here. Go over there. You have to look at that grate in the distance to realize that, hey, we have people in the way and we can't activate it. So we need to find some way of distracting the cleaning ladies. And the way we do that is by messing with this terrarium. We say, hey, your temperature controls, those are mine now. And we change them. And so they go over there and they're like, what do we do about this? Freeing up the flathead to go to the grate. Inside this section, you will see me just repeatedly hitting the scan button. The reason I'm doing that is toggling the scan will stop the camera from moving back and forth like it did in the previous two sections. And here. I don't do the toggle there because I want to try and scan that door before the flathead enters the room. But I can't scan it if I'm just toggling it, right? So I scan here, switch over to the other camera, look at that. And I could have done that a little bit better, but it's fine. Like, I'm not too worried about it at this point. This is a world record run as of posting. So I'm not too worried about it. I can go and optimize that later. Then we come back, take a look at the runner's chair. Flathead will log into them and prevent them from messing with us as we go on our heist. Skip through some more dialogue. Go and sit on that chair. Boom. All right, so this next little bit is Jackie kind of venting about the Arasaka family and specifically the wayward son. We are stealing our biochip from the wayward son, Yorinobu. Run outside, skip as much of the dialogue as we can so that Jackie will walk forward as far as he can. And this section right here shows off Jackie's amazing ability to go slowly. Observe. This is what happens if we do no Regina's, if we don't bump into him, if we don't skip any dialogue, if we don't teleport outside of all foods. That's what happens. He just walks the entire time. And it takes ages for him to get anywhere. As of yet, we have not found a way to make him go faster here. Kind of ridiculous. But as soon as we do, there will be much rejoicing among the speedrunning community. So over here, we activate a switch and pick up that gun. I like to use that gun because it makes things easier for a boss later. You can actually punch out the boss where I use this gun instead. And it only takes 3-4 hits. Just like at the very beginning, whenever you're knocking out that scavenger boss, instead of shooting him through the wall, you can actually punch him. It'll be the same thing up here in a minute or so. Yes. More dialogue. So right now, this guy in the purple, very shiny shirt is Yorinobu Arasaka. The wayward son, kind of heir to the throne of the Arasaka Corporation, and he's talking to dear old dad. And by talking, I mean angrily venting, saying, like, everything you do is stupid and you need to get on with the times, and then he kills him. And then he realizes what he did, and he's like, hey, yo, computer, my dad's dead. You should probably sound the alarm. Sounding the alarm. He goes up, talks to his bodyguard, says, yo, your man was poisoned. You should have been watching him better. Like, right, okay. Skipping through. At that point, if you skip too much, you can actually waste time going to the door because Jackie waits for you to get out of the way in order to start moving. So you have to get out of the way, preferably make it to the door, and then Jackie will start running. Right there, you can actually fall off the ledge if you're not careful. All right, so in here, this case is the biochip. This thing has the biochip, And the case has lost its integrity. It is no longer cold. It is losing its ability to protect the chip inside. And so you have to put the chip, plug it into a person in order for it to survive. So we plug it into Jackie, right? Run down here, go around this guy. This guy got in my way like a lot. Uh, Probably my fault. K-hop over there. I lost the door for a moment. And then I got blocked by these guys too. So you can fist glide through here. I have not yet perfected it. So I just run whenever I'm going for a world record. This guy, you can just punch him out. I pick up this light machine gun for a couple enemies in the upcoming future, rather than using the pistol, because the light machine gun, it does a better job for me whenever I'm trying to defeat them. And you'll see whenever they pop up. But here, I'm just waiting. Like, Jackie's just talking. I'm trying to wait for him to talk. Because, as you can see, those enemies up on the minimap, they don't go away. And they're not going to go away until the dialogue is over. And this dialogue takes a while. So I just don't even consider answering him. Let's just move on with our day. Make it down the elevator shaft. Elevators finally started moving. Excuse me, goodness. And eventually they will disappear from the map and be replaced by the lower floor. Like now. So, you can K-hop across, like so. If you go out that far, Jackie will just start running. You can see his little icon on the minimap, and he will run all the way to the stairs and then be like, all right, I'm going. Let's get to the elevator. Oh, man, I feel so bad. Oh, my belly hurts. God, I gotta walk. Give me a moment. Oh, man, goodness. And he just waddles his way into the elevator. If you're not careful, he will walk the entire time in that room. And it will take minutes for him to get to the elevator. So here, you don't really care about Jackie's position because he just teleports outside the Delamain. You enter the Delamain, he appears there because he's scripted to enter it right after you. And so you just both get in at the same time. You don't have to worry about where he is. Right now, we're being pursued. That's Adam Smasher. This is our first real encounter with him. And even then, it's not really a real encounter. It just shows his power. Like, hey, I can knock a car to the side just by shoulder checking it. All right, here is where I needed the machine gun. So that big dude in the middle, shooting him with the pistol from far away is inefficient because the pistol does not perform particularly well beyond 5 meters, and he's 15 meters away at that point. So shooting him with a light machine gun, where you can just poke him over and over repeatedly, is more efficient time-wise. And then you shoot the ones to its left and right. So here, there are 3 dialogue parts. One where you first get back through the window, and you want to just spam through that one. One immediately after that, where you actually want to pick the second dialogue option. There are 3 of them, and the second one is significantly shorter than the first and third. And then the last one, you just want to let the timer run out so that he talks to you. Because if you talk to him and try to keep him conscious, he won't pull the biochip out of his head until the dialogue is finished. And so you just wait, and he immediately does it when it's done. And dies. We are nearing the end of our journey. We've finally reached the No-Tell Motel, the place where uh, we were scheduled to go if shit hit the fan. We can go here. And so we go here. Dexter Deshawn is waiting for us. This part here, two dialogue options: touch shoulder and get out. Touch shoulder takes 20 to 25 seconds. If you're not careful and you hit that button, you will lose a ton of time. I got lucky and somebody was entering the No-Till Motel right as I got there. So that second door just opened for me right away because it was for the first person there. Now I've reached Dexter Deshawn's room, skipping through this dialogue. Once I get the option to move again, I will run into the bathroom, stare at a mirror. He says, "Hey, go get yourself cleaned up. Like you had a rough day, you're covered in blood. Get cleaned up. We'll talk after you're done." And you're just like, "What? Jackie's dead. We failed the heist. I'm not going to get clean." Punch. And this here is how our speedrun journey ends. You get shot, you die, title screen pops up, and it's over. So I hope you enjoyed this world record with commentary. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully, I will have sound so that you can actually listen